Welcome to our next section, which looks at regrouping. In this traditional addition example, we are adding 28 plus 6. 8 plus 6 is equal to 14. However, we don't put 14 as the answer. When we're adding the 8 plus 6 column, we would put the number 4. And then we're normally told that we have to carry the 1, which goes to the next column over, which is the tens column. Once we carry it over to the tens column and we add that column, we now have 34. We had to regroup to get this answer. When you regroup, you carry or borrow a number from one place value column to another, which is what we just did with this example. Now we're going to take a look at what's really going on in the background when you do a regrouping. Let's see what's going on in the background when we're regrouping. Take a look at this example, 28 plus 6. 28 plus 6, we would add 8 and 6, which are in the ones column. So 8 ones plus 6 ones, which would give us 14 ones, like we saw in the previous example. However, we can only have one digit in the column, in the one space. So we have to trade 10 of the ones for one 10 disc. This will allow us to have one digit in the ones place. So instead of having 14 ones, we're going to take 10 of those ones and trade them in for one 10 disc. Thus, when we do that, now when we add it up, we have 4 ones and 3 tens. 4 ones and 3 tens, which gives us the answer 34. The same answer we got in the previous example, except now we got to see what was actually going on in the background. So 8 plus 6 gave us 14 ones. We can't show 14 ones as the answer, so we have to trade 10 of those ones into one tens disc. In our previous example, that was the carry, when we carried the 1. Here we're actually seeing what we're doing is we're trading 10 ones for one 10 disc. Once we add them all together, we now have 4 ones and 3 tens, which gives us the answer 34. We need to regroup because the columns can only have one digit. It can be any digit from 0 to 9, but it can only be one digit. In this example that we have here, in my ones column, I have a total of 9 ones. This is correct. It follows the one digit limitation. However, in this example, when I'm doing my addition or subtraction or multiplication, I'm ending up with 10 ones. That exceeds the one digit limitation for the place value. That's incorrect. When you come across this situation, you have to regroup to fix it. As I mentioned in the previous slide, place value columns have size limits. That's why we have to regroup. You can only have 9 discs in your ones column, in your tens column, in your hundreds column. If you're doing thousands or 10,000s, whatever extra columns that you're adding in the place value, they all have the same limitation. You can only have up to 9 discs in them. So if you come up with a problem that has an answer that has 14 discs or 20 discs, we have to regroup in order to accommodate the fact that there's a size limit when you're using place values. Okay? So because of the size limit, we have to trade up, or we have to regroup. Our place value disks allow us, for the purposes of regrouping, to trade a large number of smaller value disks, for example, 10 ones disks, for one or two larger value disks. So I can take my tens one disks and I can trade it for one 10 disk. As I mentioned in our previous examples, if you end up with something larger than 9 disks in your column, that tells you right away, I'm going to need to regroup. When you go to regroup, you have to ask yourself, do I have enough to trade for a larger disk? So do I have 10 ones to trade for one 10? Do you have 10 tens disks to trade for 100? So when you're doing these calculations, if you find that you're ending out with more than 9 disks as your answer, automatically ask yourself, do I have enough to trade for a larger size disk? Let's take a look at this example with using the place value mat. I have the equation 5 plus 6, which is really 5 ones plus 6 ones. When you add them all together, 5 ones plus 6 ones on your mat, you're going to get 11 ones. Well, right away, that lets you know that's more than 9 disks. So I'm going to have to regroup. Now let's take a look at what's going on in the background when we're trying to do the regrouping from 11 disks. Here is a breakdown of what's going on when you end up with 9 disks. So I have the example 5 plus 6. 5 plus 6 gives me 11 ones. That's more than 9 ones. So I have to regroup. And what I have to ask myself is, do I have enough to trade for a 10 disk? Which means, do I have 10 ones disks? And I do. I do have 10 ones disks. So I can take those 10 and trade them in for one 10 disk. And what that does is it reorganizes my column. So now I have 110. Instead of having 11 ones, I now have 1 1 and 1 10 for an answer of 11, which, while it looks the same like what we had before with the 11 ones, this is a more accurate representation. 11 is really 10 1 1 10 and 1 1. So we started with 11 ones. We saw we had to regroup. Did we have enough to trade? We did. We traded 10 ones for 1 10, which gave us 1 10 and 1 1. So now the place value mat, 5 plus 6, once again, we have 5 ones. So we would move 5 ones onto our disk, onto our mat, I'm sorry. And then 6 ones. Five and then 6. Now we take away 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because we're going to trade that for 110. Now our answer is 110, 1 1 and 110, which gives us the answer 11. Now, as you saw in the previous slide, how we got to that answer 11 was by regrouping or trading 10 ones for one 10 disk to give us a more accurate representation of the number 11, which is really 110 and 1 1 and 1 ones. Just again as a reminder, as we're working through the different exercises, always remember, place value columns have a size limit. So as we're going through each example for regrouping, and when you're working on this on your own, or if you have problems that you're working on for school, When you come across this, always remember there's a limitation. You can have up to 9 discs. If you have more than 9, that lets you know automatically I'm going to have to regroup. If you're going to have to regroup, do you have enough to trade for the next value? So if you're in the ones column, do you have enough to trade for a 10? If you're in the tens column, do you have enough to trade for 100? Because the columns have a size limitation. So we have to either trade up or we regroup. So let's start regrouping. We're going to start with the ones addition first.